Hey friends! Welcome to the Drug Prevention Power Hour, where we empower leaders in youth drug prevention. After creating a student-led movement hosting epic drug-free events across the nation, your host, Jake White, dedicated himself to making the prevention field more fun, impactful, and relevant for today's youth. So if you're in education, counseling, public health, prevention, or just a caring adult looking for strategies to protect your kids, we hope you subscribe and learn from every show. Coming to you from Jake White and his team at Vive 18, enjoy this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
For everyone listening, you're on the Drug Prevention Power Hour. It is Monday if you're watching it right when we're released. And welcome to the show. I wanted to have Nathan on again because he was on another episode and it was so powerful. And he what was cool is I think you teased about what we're going to talk about today when we talked way back. But now you have some exciting information and some exciting things happening around this restorative program that you've been using. And Nathan, I want you to talk as much as possible because I'm getting over a little cold. So you just you just take it away. No, I'm just kidding. But I'll talk as little as possible. I want to hear all about this program and anything you can share about it with as far as restorative practices and what you're doing out there.
Yeah, so first I'll say I think that diversion programs are very much needed in our schools. And I know that suspension and detention, it just doesn't work. We're suspending kids, we're sending them to detention, in-school suspension, and they're coming back with the same behaviors, they're coming back with the same actions, the same decisions, and it's not working. And so a few years ago, when I was with a coalition here in town, we worked on a diversion program with our school coordinator of health, with our juvenile probation officers, our SROs. We had the health department involved. It was just collaboration. It was community collaboration is what it is, and I don't even have the whole list to name everybody that was involved in this off. But if you're going to do a diversion program, it has to be collaboration, and do your best to include all 12 sectors in the community.
Do you remember how you guys got together? Were you already a part of an organization together and that laid the groundwork? Or did someone say, hey, we need you, and because we got a problem?
So everyone involved was pretty much a part of the coalition. But there were people that we needed at the table. And so we had to reach out and say, hey, we need you at the table. And then the other part of it was we had to look at another diversion program to see hey, is this working for them? What's working for them? What's not working for them? Let's take the good and let's get rid of the bad, right? And let's create our own program. So we created a 4-tier system, a 4-tier diversion program. And it's been implemented for this was the second school year that it was implemented here in Roane County, and there were some other counties that I worked with to get it implemented in different areas of the state of Tennessee. And so what we found out in that first year of having that program is that in middle school, we reduced the amount of vaping citations by over 62% from the year before. It was huge, and it was a huge win. And now there's some things about data that I'm really picky about, right? So one of the schools had 0 citations that year. That doesn't mean that kids weren't vaping, right?
Right.
So we knew though that they also had an SRO that was going between the elementary school and the middle school. So he probably wasn't, or she probably wasn't locked into, hey, we've got this issue vaping here at the school, we need to squash it. So they probably, a very small school, they probably went without getting any citations because they just didn't have the consistency of an SRO there at the school. But the other schools, we saw great improvements. And we were even in that first year, we were even a little bit worried because at the end of the year, I think 9 students got caught in one school because they thought, hey, it's almost summertime. We've got 2 days left of school. We'll just bring no one's checking, no one's looking. Well, part of the program, and I'll explain this in a minute, part of the program was that we continuously reminded teachers and principals and SROs, hey, don't let up on this. Like, this is something that we're trying to get rid of in our schools. Don't let up on this. And they didn't. So that the 4-tier system,
That's
Jake,
cool.
it works out this way. So if you're caught the first time, you will come to a class on Saturday, and a school can design this anyway. You can come, you can't come, you have to come to a class on Saturday. You have to be in your seat by 8 a.m. Your guardian will stay with you for the first hour. They're going to get the education as well.
Okay.
So they stay for the first hour. When you arrive, you pay a $25 fee. It's not a fine, it's a fee. That fee can be used to buy gas cards for somebody that says, hey, I don't have the gas money to get to the class on Saturday. Well, no problem. Here's a gas card. It can also be used to build quit kits for students. And so, if they're having trouble quitting or they're having trouble not being able to leave their vape at home, you can take that money and build a quit kit for them. So you have the $25 fee. There's no referral to juvenile probation. The citation is written, but it's held, and it's held until that student completes the course. So it's a 4-hour course. I do it in a workshop. I do a workshop, very active. Kids are moving around. They're working in groups. They're working together. Some people just do it as we're going to teach you for 4 hours. Either way can work. Either way can work. I'll be honest with you. I just prefer the workshop method.
Real quick, Nate, what was, I'm intrigued by this idea of a quit kit. What is in a quit kit?
Whatever the student wants to put in it. So you can do a fidget spinner, you can do some gum, you can do toothpicks. Don't really suggest toothpicks now anymore because now they have the nicotine toothpicks out. And so a student can put the nicotine toothpicks in the quit kit. They're just getting nicotine the rest of the day. So it could be gum, could be candy, could be a stress ball. Some kids put a rubber band in there to just go like this, with it, just twirl it around. Just anything that's going to help them concentrate and get their mind refocused off of that craving of nicotine. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. That's cool. So just to make sure that I'm on track with you too. So you mentioned there's 4 tiers, and right now if someone is caught using, maybe there's a citation at school or something, and then it's the Saturday, their parent brings them, the parent stays for the first hour, the students have to complete an additional 3 hours, and then are they absolved from the that's the consequence, correct? Right? That's education, which is good. That's way better than getting off of school.
Right.
And the parents have some stake in it too, because they're getting educated and they can become a partner in this decision to keep young people safe. And I probably understand this isn't great too, because I think I was talking with you when it was like, dude, these parents are giving their kids vaping products. They're giving their kids different substances, which is a big problem. So now they're getting the information too. Yeah.
And at first I was like, are you kidding me? You're giving your kid a vape? Like, are you? And so I had to think about it for a little bit. And, the marketing that the vape industry has used it's safer, right? It's safe. It's going to help you quit smoking. So if I have a kid that's smoking and I'm like, how do I get them to quit? The vaping industry says this is safe and it'll help my kid quit smoking. Then maybe that's an avenue I'm going to try because I don't want them to smoke. Right. Some just buy it anyways. It's not a big deal to them. They don't see the harm in it. But that's the great thing about the class is in the workshop is that you have that first hour to present the harm, the danger in it for kids. And I think it's really interesting because a lot of guardians or parents will walk out going, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this, and this was very informative, and now I have to change my mindset about this. And so
Okay. Wow.
that's the great thing. And not all of them are like that,
Hmm.
but have had several say that when they leave. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And
Yeah.
is that tier one or
That's
what
tier
in the
one.
whole system? Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah. That's tier one. When they finish it, they just go back to their regular school.
Okay,
And they've not missed any classes. They've not missed any lessons. They're still on track. Right.
okay,
So, and the citation gets tossed out. They don't even go see
okay.
the juvenile judge. Not a thing. No, there's no probation, no juvenile probation, no community service, no seeing the judge. All that it's diverted. We've taken you through this program. We've taught you. We've really stressed that, listen, even if you can't quit, do not bring this to school, right? We want you to quit, but do not bring this to school, because what you're doing is you're interrupting the school day. Teachers lose instruction time. There's additional admin stuff that has to go on. Like, you are costing the school additional funds. So that's tier one. Tier two. So the interesting thing about tier two is, if a student gets caught on tier one on Monday, right? They're tier one Monday, they get caught, they go to the office, they schedule the class, it's coming up Saturday. The student walks out of the class and they go, I'm already tier one, so tomorrow I'm just going to bring my vape. What are they going to do? Well, if you get caught tomorrow, you're on tier two. You skip tier one, right? You don't even get to go to that Saturday class as a tier one student. You will go as a tier two student. So what happens on tier two? Tier two is you come back to the class. You pay the $25 fee again. You have to be in your seat by 8 a.m. If you're not in your seat by 8 a.m., you are not allowed to take the class, and you go to the next tier. So uh, see, by 8 a.m., your guardian stays the whole 4 hours. They're going to get the whole education with you this time. You do get a citation. You're going to get a citation. You're going to get 10 hours of community service, and you're going to get 2 days of in-school suspension. After those 2 days, you go back to your school. The great thing is, we didn't do this the first year, but and some schools don't do it, and I really suggest that schools do this. So when somebody gets out of jail, there's a program to where, like, somebody will kind of walk along with them as they leave jail, right?
Hmm.
And help them get a driver's license, help them get to their probation appointment, right? Somebody doing that for them. If a kid goes to in-school suspension, when they go back to their school, there's a volunteer or somebody in the school that walks along with them and says, hey, this is what you missed on day one. This is what you missed on day two. We need to get you caught up. We want to make sure that you're going to be successful when you come back, because we know that stress causes bad decisions, right? For kids, they make bad
Yeah.
decisions when they're stressed if they don't have good coping skills. So I really suggest that if anybody implements this program, that you have somebody, a volunteer, that's going to meet with those teachers and say, what does the student need to know when they come back, so we can prepare them
Okay.
to be the most successful.
Who
So
who's the
they
who's a likely volunteer for that?
Sometimes it's a counselor.
Okay.
I've even seen, like, the secretary at the school, the one that sits up front and answers the phone. It's them, because they're the first point of contact, and they know all the kids, and they usually have a good relationship with them. So
Hmm.
it's like, that's a great person. Sometimes it's a librarian. It just, whoever feels like they can handle that, and not overwhelm them, because we know teachers are overwhelmed. Then that's who's going to do it. It just depends on what the school has available. And again, not
Okay.
every school
Cool.
does it, because they can't. And that's difficult. But if you
Yeah.
want to set the student up for the best possibility of success, you have somebody like that. Reentry program. That's what
That's
the
cool.
jail's called,
Okay.
the
Cool.
reentry program. So you have somebody working
That's
reentry
cool.
at the schools. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So tier two, you get the 10 hours of community service, the um, you get the $25 fee, you get the in-school suspension. Once you complete the class, as long as you complete the class the second time, um, we're going to take that citation, and we're going to push it to the side, and you're not going to go see the judge. You're just going to work with juvenile probation on completing your 10 hours of community service. That's it.
Okay.
You're not going to have to go stand in front of the judge. This also frees up a lot of the judge's time. Our judge was bogged down with vaping citations. And this program really freed up a lot of the caseload that was coming to him. There's still juvenile probation issues, but it really smoothed things out for our juvenile judge here in Rome County. Yeah.
That's fascinating to think, because I only thought of the school staff as the stakeholders who are like, we need to do something about this because I can't do my job. I'm just dealing with all these citations. But I didn't even think about it being a legal issue, right? Is that the judge would also have a lot of stake in this.
Yep. Who was also at the table for our meetings about this. We wanted to make sure that we were bringing everyone to the table that had some type of stake in this. And we knew that the juvenile judge, it's something that we had heard from him before, was it's all I see. And that's an exaggeration, but when you see citation after citation after citation on vape devices, that's how you're going to feel. Like, this is all I see,
Right.
So he was at the table. Juvenile probation was at the table. The health department. We even had our emergency room. We had a representative from our emergency room at the table because we wanted them to talk about some of the health effects on the lungs and be able to really kind of guide us and walk us through that, because at the time we weren't really 100% positive or sure what was happening to the lungs. This was 20. I guess the info was out there, but we wanted to hear it from a nurse. We wanted to hear it from somebody that worked at a hospital. This was 2023. Yeah, 2023.
Okay.
2023, 2024 school year. So we had them at the table. We had the SROs at the table. Our school board was at the table because they were going to have to change the school policy. The school policy at the time was just like, hey, you can't bring tobacco, and if you do, you're going to in-school suspension. The new policy is this tiered system. This is what's going to happen. And so they had to change that policy. The interesting thing was when we built this policy together as a team, we took it to the school board and we were like, this is going to be a home run, right? And we took it and they were like, no, we don't like it. We want more consequences. And we were like, hey, okay, all right. So on tier 2, we didn't initially have the 2 days of in-school suspension built in. We still had tier 2 as there's no in-school suspension, there's no detention. This is one more time, right? Well, they wanted in-school suspension built into on tier 2, so that's what we did.
Interesting.
And then, we took it back to them, and they approved it, no problem. So
so is the tiered system based on how many times they're caught? Like, if you once, it's tier 1. If you're twice, it's tier 2.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I'm. Oh my gosh! Now this is like a drama. I'm like, what could be 3 and 4? I don't want to go through tier 2. Like, the class sounds fun because I get to hang out with No Nick Nathan, and I get to do a class and learn and stuff. And my parents are gonna be mad because they got to give up an hour on a Saturday. But tier 2 is like, shoot, I gotta really get stuff together because there's a little bit of money involved. I got 10 hours of community service. I got 2 days out of class. My friends are going to ask me about it. What's 3 and 4 about?
Yeah, so tier 3, there's no class. You don't get to come to class. You don't get to be a part of that. Tier 3 is you get the citation. You're going to go see the judge. And we've done our best to help you avoid that, to keep you out of that system. But you've made the decision to keep doing what you're doing. I will tell you this, Jake, in the 3 schools that I've done in the past 2 years, we're adding 4 and 5 next school year. Out of the 3 schools, we've only had 2 students hit tier 3 in 2 school years.
That's really great.
Yeah. So we know that just the consequences alone are keeping them from making the same decisions over and over again. So tier three is you go see the judge, you get your citation, you go see the judge. You can receive up to 50 hours of community service, which if you hit tier three, he's going to hand that out. 50 hours of community service, up to, I think it's up to $150 in fines plus the legal fees. Um, and then you get 3 days of in-school suspension. So you're only getting one more extra day of in-school suspension. So we're trying not to overwhelm them with being out of school, right? The whole point of this was to keep kids in school because we know that if they leave for 5 days, they leave for 3 days even, they're losing progress, and that stresses them out. And then again, we have the same decisions being made. So that's really tier three. Is that we don't have anything to do with it. We've done our part. We've tried. This is all now SRO, juvenile probation, juvenile judge, and whatever nonprofits offer community service out there. Those are the ones that are going to be involved. By the way, I should say this. One of the things I suggest is, like, if you have community partners that are nonprofits that are like a free medical clinic or maybe like free dental services or a food pantry, on those Saturdays, leave enough time for 15 minutes to introduce them to those students and those families that may be tier two, because providing those resources will also help reduce stress for the family, which also helps them make better decisions. So that's something that we did in the second year in Roane County. Was we had some people coming after the class, 15 minutes before the class ended, to say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do. We also, if you couldn't come, we also had flyers and brochures for people that said, hey, if you need any of these resources, here's some information, this is where they're at, give them a call on Monday. It's huge for families, especially when you live I live in a rural area, and so the resources here, we have so many resources, and we want families to know about them, but some of them, they just don't know, and so that was one more way we could reach those families.
That's really cool,
hey,
Nathan.
Yeah.
Dang. And is that? So I'm going to do a quick plug. There was this was a long time ago now. There's a group called Full Circle that was on the podcast a long time ago. And
cool.
They're in some big cities right now. But what I know was really cool is, like, if I'm listening to you, Nathan, and I'm like, this is very thorough. I can take some notes. Maybe I can implement this. And Nathan, I know that you actually help consult on these kind of things too. So, like, they can talk to you about it. But what I'm thinking too is, like, well, Nate, what if I don't have the capacity to do this? And there are groups like, for example, these coalitions that people are a part of. The school system might be really supportive. And then even these recovery groups, like, you'll be encouraged by this, man. Full Circle was a peer-led recovery network where the students came together to support each other. And they have like an after-school club. So yes, you go to the class, but then, well, hey, you need to surround yourself by some people who aren't using. Great. They have this hangout spot with pool and ping pong and basketball and music. And you're in this cool, healthy environment, and your friends get it, right? Like, they also used to vape, and they get the craving, right? You're going to get that peer support, which I think is so cool. That's like next level, right? Like, I want to talk to you in 5 years, and you're like, yeah, dude, we got this going on. There's student involvement in all of this. You're like on groundbreaking things, because everyone's wondering, how can I develop an effective diversion program or restorative program? Because I'm realizing that the punishment alone does not actually fix anything. This is cool.
Yeah, when I was a kid and I would get caught smoking at school and I would get detention. When I went to detention, I was with all of my friends that smoked, and we would just make plans for the weekend. What are we doing on the weekend? Okay, we're going to have a party. Like, you're just putting me into like general population, like to use prison terms, you're putting me in general population, and that's where I want to be. Those are my
Yeah.
people, And then if I got suspended, perfect, because my mom and dad weren't home; they were at work, so
Right.
perfect. That's where I want to be.
Right.
This program eliminates that. It takes the majority of that out of the picture. I'm
Okay.
sure that you still have to suspend students. I'm sure that some will probably be expelled, and that's going to happen, right?
Hmm.
But for the majority of the students that go to this program, they're not hitting those risk factors. They're getting more protective factors through this program than anything else, and that's the key, right? More
Yeah.
protective factors, that's going to help them. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
go ahead.
to to I agree with you 100%. And I want to make sure I don't forget where we've been.
Yeah.
The tier 3 part, the first two involve the class. If the student is caught again, you're kind of like, hey, well, you had a chance with the classes and stuff like that. Now there's actually going to be a consequence. There is like, you got to show up to the judge, have that conversation, up to $150 of a fine. And then you could also have up to 50 hours of community service. What's tier 4 about?
Yeah. So, and I will say this too on tier three. On tier three, that $150 fine, that's specific to my county. Other
Okay.
counties have different freedoms, and so if the judge can do more or wants to do more on that fine, that's his prerogative. Um,
Right.
so I want to make sure that I mention that. And I will say this too. There was a school that heard me talk about this, and they went and tried to implement it without all of the information, and it just backfired. And they ended up
Oh,
calling me and going, "Hey, can we hire you and bring you in to help us walk us through this?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
well, I bet
So
there's so many stakeholders that you have to educate along the way and intricacies to how you explain this to certain parties to get buy-in because I don't know how long it took y'all to do this, but now that you have done it, you could mess around with this for probably 2 or 3 years and then maybe it fizzles out because there's no momentum versus, hey, like how fast was the process from that meeting y'all had until you started implementing? I'm curious about that.
4 months, because
All right.
we started working with a school that was doing a diversion program about 50 miles from us, and so four of us. It was the school coordinator of school health, our health department, myself, and then our trauma informed school coordinator. We all went to this other school and looked at their program, and then we knew that we had to change the school policy. We had to work on that, and so that was done over summer break. And so once that school policy was changed, we could implement at the beginning of the school year. So it
Okay.
was about 4 months, and there was
That's cool.
a lot of meetings, and it was bringing different stakeholders into those meetings and saying, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, this is how it works. What do you think? By the way, another stakeholder that was in some of those meetings was a student who had been caught vaping before, who had quit vaping, but we needed a student to be at the table to say, hey, they're not going to go with that, right? Like they're not going to
Right.
enjoy that, or they would enjoy that, and we don't want them to enjoy that. Like we had to have the youth voice
Yeah,
as part of those meetings, and so
that's
so that
good.
was something that we did. So
And the right student, by the way, right? Not the student council president or the star athlete who is not using, but the one who this program is designed for. That's so good. Okay, hold on, Nate. Before I
yep.
get too excited and ask you to go to
Okay.
number 4,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
why, in a couple bullet points, why did that program not work with the other group that tried to do it? Just like taking little points and trying to slide it over to their community? Why do you think it didn't work the first time?
No collaboration. Nobody knew what was going on. So they didn't go talk to the SRO and say, hey, we need you at the table. They didn't talk to the health department and say, hey, we need you at the table. They didn't talk to really talk to the principal of the schools and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And so the schools that I work with uses a Google form. So when a student gets caught, they fill out the Google form. What time they were caught, where they were caught, what grade they're in, what tier they're on, what day the class will be. And there's some other information in there as well. And so there was no tracking system. That there wasn't any of that. And so when you don't have, number one, if you don't have collaboration, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. Because everybody, and when you talk about the 12 sectors in coalition work, all of those sectors really need to be at the table because they all have a part in this. They all do. Parents have to be involved, right? Like you have to have parents at the table because they have some insight, especially those who have been through it before. They've got some insight on what you're trying to plan. There may be some things. The other part too was when we did the first policy change here in Roane County, we had our county executive look at it to make sure that we weren't doing anything unconstitutional. So again, you just try to implement it and it's like, okay, but no. Like there's a process.
Yeah. No, Nathan, I don't want to do that. I just want to make a Word document that says the 4 steps, and I want to send it to the principal and the school board and all them and just have them get it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about, So
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
that's well, and I think sometimes, that you hear something, you get excited and you're thinking that's going to fix it. And then you run with it, but you really there's a whole process to this and it takes time.
Well, and the cool thing about it is like the results speak for themselves. At the very least, right? Like that 62% of incidents at schools, they're being reduced every year. Again, like you mentioned, it doesn't mean that they never use, and that would be great if that were the case. But just that alone, freeing up educators' time, freeing up the judges' time, the students are in a healthier environment. There's less disruptions and peer influence around maybe negative behaviors. And you gotta also believe that that's good, that they're not using it in school. That's another safe place. So for anybody who's like, I'm sure people are thinking this, well, did they quit? What's the long-term effects? We won't know for a while, right? Like this is a new program, right. But I want to congratulate you because being a part of this thing in Roane County with you and all your peers out there for doing that, that's a big milestone. And we're getting close to having a longer episode. Here's what I'd love to end on. Give us the little tier 4, and then please tell us how to get in touch with you if we're like, Nathan, I need to learn the process, because maybe this process defines a different outcome in their community, but at least you've done it before,
Yeah. Tier 4 is you go see the judge. You get 45 days of in-school suspension. We've done everything that we can. We have had the judge send a student to the juvenile detention center, just to say like, hey, you're messing around with your life, and these are you turn 18, it's different. You break the law when you're 18, it's completely different. And so that's one thing they did. We've only had one student hit tier 4 in all the schools that I've been in.
Okay. And did you say 4 to 5 days or 45 days in school suspension?
45
days, a month and a half of in-school suspension. Wow. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And here it's an alternative school, so you go to a completely different building. And do your sentence there. So people can find me, nathanrayspeaks.com. It's WRAY, nathanrayspeaks.com. You can email me, nathan@nathanrayspeaks.com. I'm on Instagram as No Nick Nate, Facebook, No Nick Nate. So you can find me just about anywhere. Yeah.
And
That's it.
I'll put in a plug if you want to hang out with No Nick Nate. We'll be going on the Prevention Innovators Cruise together in April of 2026. By the time this episode goes out, I don't even know if there's going to be tickets available. So you better, if you're listening to this, like, please
Get 'em
go
now.
on prevention. Right? Yeah. I think right now, like, we're starting at 50 spots, and once they sell out, we're going to try to get more, but we won't know what happens. So, you want to cruise with with Nate and learn some
Come
more?
on.
We'll get a lesson in the hot tub about diversion programs. You know what I mean? No. I had to do a quick plug for that, dude, because we're working together on that.
Yeah.
You're always doing incredible stuff, Nathan, and I
Thanks,
love
man.
catching up with you. And we share so much just in like the love for this field and our passion for helping others. So I just want to say thank you for all the sacrifices you make to make this your career and figure it out. And then for everyone else, you know, I say this a lot, but your role is so important. Nathan, you're a great dude. Will you please sign off by giving them some parting words of wisdom or guidance or inspiration, and then we'll see them next time.
Yeah. You know, take those good risks. You know, this program was a risk for our community, and it was a good risk. Take those good risks. Rest. Take time off. Don't answer text messages when you're not working. Don't answer your emails. Detach from the job. I don't want you to burn out. You know, we need you out there. And for the people listening, you're doing incredible things. You're doing incredible things, and make sure that you still celebrate those small victories, because the small victories are the ones that lead to the major victories. And you're definitely building up those small victories anytime you purposely create connection with intention, because that creates prevention.
Ooh, what? Oh my gosh. Mic drop. Y'all, I cannot say it better. That's No Nick Nate. Go to nathanray.com. That's WRAY, nathanray.com. Hit him up, and we will see you next Monday for another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour podcast. If you love the show, make sure to leave a review and share what you've learned. And if you need help reducing substance use among youth by educating and engaging students in prevention, visit vive18.com for more information, tools, and resources.